In life, we all encounter obstacles, and those obstacles come in all different shapes, sizes, and forms. The question is, how do we handle those obstacles? Do we attack them head on, or do we allow them to make us quit? Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast, where we aim to motivate and inspire listeners to never give up on themselves, their dreams, or their goals. We will interview successful people from all walks of life as they share their no-quit stories when they had the choice to give up or give in, but they didn't. We thank you for listening, and we hope to be that jolt of positivity as you go for your greatness. Welcome to episode number 100 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Wirth, and today's theme of the day is gratitude. Our quote of the day comes to us from Melanie Beattie. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. It is a complete honor and privilege to bring you today's episode, as it marks our 100th episode. When we first launched the No Quit Living podcast back in April of 2017, we had one goal, and that goal was to deliver consistent quality content to our listeners. I'm extremely grateful to so many people that have helped turn this idea and concept into a reality. With over 110,000 total downloads, I'm completely humbled and grateful to so many amazing people. As a host of our show, I typically receive most of the credit and attention, but that's not fair, as I owe so much thanks to so many amazing people that have helped along the way. First of all, I need to thank my podcast partner, Wes Yee. Wes is the guy that does it all behind the scenes, from the editing, the music, and making sure that everything is up and ready to go. If it wasn't for him, none of this would be possible. Also, if you like any of the music, that's 100% all Wes, and he's an incredible musician. Thanks, Wes. I also need to say very, very special thank you to my parents for their continued support every step of the way. I'll never be able to repay them both, but I'm so appreciative for everything that they do and have done. Thank you. To my team at both FFR and NQL, Linda and Lisa, you get it all done. Thank you. To the three most important people in my life, my three little munchkins, Zachary, Emily, and Mason. You three are my inspiration for why I do what I do each and every single day, and you three are the absolute best. I'm so proud of you, and I love you. And please stop growing up so fast. I need to give a quick shout out to my friend Chrissy. I have known you since college, and you have been awesome and so truly genuine with your support, friendship, and care. So thank you. I also have a very special thank you to someone that has recently come into my life. You are such a positive force, and I appreciate you more than you know, and I only hope to be able to return at least half of what you've given me. I'm so lucky to have you in my corner. Thank you. This show would not be possible if it wasn't for the amazing guests we have been so fortunate to have share their stories, advice, failures, and awesome successes. To our incredible guests, I salute you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Many of these guests I'm so fortunate to now be able to call my friends, mentors, and people I look up to, and many of them I get a chance to speak to quite often. So thank you very much for everything that you've done to make this show what it is. And lastly, to you, the listeners, thank you, and thank you. When we started the No Quit Living podcast journey, we had no idea where exactly it was going to take us. But I'm so grateful that people tune into our episodes each and every single day. I'm honored and incredibly grateful for our listeners and our No Quit family. Thank you so much, and we hope that you keep on listening. For today's episode, we're going to switch things up a bit and highlight some of the best content from our first 100 episodes. A question I often get asked is, do I have a favorite episode? And I honestly have to say that I don't. And the reason being is that I am so amazed by some of these incredible guests that we've had and listening to them as they share some pretty remarkable stories where they had the choice to give up or give in, but they didn't. They kept on going and they never quit. As the theme of today's episode is gratitude, I again need to thank our extraordinary guest. I'm so grateful for the wide range of guests that we've been able to have on our show. We've had professional athletes, coaches, authors, speakers, parents, entrepreneurs, and entertainers. We truly have tried to bring a wide range of guests, topics, and inspirational stories to help motivate and inspire our listeners to never give up. The second question I ask on every single episode is for our guests to share their no-quit stories. Now, many of the guests I knew before and even had a relationship with many of them. However, I didn't know or anticipate or even expect the candor in which so many of our guests were going to openly and willingly share these no-quit stories. Many of the stories encompass some pretty raw and very real topics, such as murder, forgiveness, death, suicide, divorce, bankruptcy, loss, child abduction, and many, many more. The common theme between each and every episode was that there came a point when every single guest got knocked down, encountered one, if not more than one obstacle, and when they had the choice of giving up or giving in, they didn't. They didn't throw in the towel, but instead they kept on going. So the question for you, our listeners, what do you do and what will you do when you face your next challenge or obstacle in life? Will you give up and give in, or will you dig deep and no matter what, keep on fighting. When I first started asking the question to our guest if they could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why, I wasn't sure what to expect. I figured it was a good question to ask our guests to find out a little bit more about them. And over 100 episodes later, the number one answer to that question actually is Abraham Lincoln. Now, if Abraham Lincoln doesn't epitomize the true definition of no quit, then I don't know who does. The second most common answer to that question was Elon Musk, followed by Jesus at number 3. If you ask me, pretty interesting, diverse, and different people. We also ask a question to our guests about their favorite book or if they would recommend a book. And the number one recommendation, hands down, is Think and Grow Rich, which was written almost over 100 years ago by Napoleon Hill. For any of our listeners that have not read that book, I will send a copy in the mail to the first 3 people that subscribe to our podcast and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. All you need to do is just take a screenshot, and you can email that to me at chris@noquitliving.com, and I'll send you your free copy. Jeremy Wanger had a remarkable story that he shared with us on episode number 36. After a rough relationship with his father growing up, Jeremy made a decision to forgive his father and try to move on. In an unbelievably sad turn of events, his father was murdered, and the case was left unsolved for many years. A few years later, they found the individual that murdered Jeremy's father, and remarkably, Jeremy made a decision. The decision he made was he wanted to speak to that person and he wanted to forgive him. Talk about an incredible act, but more importantly, what an impressive individual Jeremy is, and I'm honored to be able to call him one of my good friends today. Jeff Woods, who was the guest on episode number 35, really dove deep on the importance of asking yourself, what is the most important thing that you need to do right now? Not something that you want to do or something that you should do, but he focused on making sure that you drill down and you get as specific as you can be. I can honestly say that me personally, since that episode aired, I constantly find myself asking myself, is this the most important thing that I should be doing right now? Hal Elrod rocked it as he was the guest on episode number 75. He shared his 2, not 1, but 2 no-quit stories that are absolutely remarkable. He discusses his incredible morning rituals, which has been followed by millions of people and have been turned into books and concepts that have helped so many people succeed in life. Hal Elrod is also the host of his own podcast, and he's one of the main reasons why I actually started listening to podcasts myself. Rob Decker, who has become a very good friend, was the guest on episode number 86. Rob has quite an ironic story, as he attempted to end his life by committing suicide. In fact, he was saved, and now he's completely turned his life around, and every single day he is paying it forward by helping others. Talk about turning a challenging obstacle into your next big opportunity. Ed DaCosta, who I've known since 2011, was the guest on episode number 91. He's quite an inspirational individual. In September of 2017, his wife and kids felt something was off, so they made him go to a doctor where they identified that he in fact had a large tumor on his brain. Never saying or uttering the words, "woe is me," Ed got after it, remained positive, and now over 6 months later, he's back at his business, rocking it and helping as many of people as he can. Patrick Bet-David, who was the guest on our most recent episode, number 99, is quite an interesting and incredibly successful entrepreneur. He has some very strong opinions on the current college system in our country, but also recommends open dialogue, and he fully supports trying to understand others. It doesn't mean that you change your opinion or value others more or less than yourself, but Patrick hit it out of the park when it comes to open dialogue and trying to understand someone else's point of view. With some of the negativity flying throughout the media in our country today, I think we can all listen more, try to understand others, and debate through open and positive dialogue. One of my favorite questions that I often get emailed about is when I ask our guests if they have either a morning or a daily ritual that they swear by. I believe every single guest, other than maybe 3 or 4, had a few things that they did and swore by each and every day. And they mentioned that that's had a positive impact both on their life as well as a success in their area of expertise. The most common answers actually were gratitude, meditation, exercise, and reading. One of the most consistent answers was to avoid your cell phone and electronics the first thing in the morning and avoid putting yourself in a reactive state first thing in the morning. Common quote that has been mentioned is something along the lines of how you start your day helps you win your day. And I fully believe and support that. One guest was very specific in how he spent the first and last hour of the day. Definitely something I think we all could look at and maybe identify in our own lives. A question to our listeners would be, how do you start your day? Do you turn on your electronics first and start your day in that reactive state, or do you start your day on your own terms? One of my favorite questions I ask our guests is, how do they define success? Every single guest has answered that question a little bit differently, but the common theme was not money or materialistic things, but in fact it was being able to spend their time with the people of their choosing, where they wanted to, when they wanted to, and more importantly, for how long they wanted to. So the question I flip to you as our listeners is, how do you define success? Have you defined success? I would highly recommend to our listeners that at some point you take a couple of minutes to define what success means, looks like, and feels like to you. Make sure you know exactly what you're aiming for and why. We've had almost 110,000 total downloads and been ranked a top 50 podcast on iTunes in 3 different categories, and we've been mentioned as a top podcast to listen to for 2018 by 5 different successful media outlets. Now, please don't take this the wrong way, as I am extremely appreciative and grateful for those incredible accomplishments and mentions, but that was never our goal. Our goal was, and always will be, providing value to our listeners. We want to be the place where individuals, families, companies, and teams come to for inspiration and motivation. No matter where you are in life, we want to be that positive force for you. And I would love to hear from our listeners, especially if there are any future guests that you'd like us to have on the show, or perhaps if you have a specific question that you'd like me to ask a guest. You can always reach out to me at chris@noquitliving.com. A constant theme over the last 2 months of our show has been the importance of who's in your tribe and who's in your corner. Are those people a positive force in your life, or do those people need to be removed from your bus? This past month has been personally and professionally the most amazing time of my career, and I believe it's only getting better. For me, this huge mindset and monumental change only happened when the wrong negative people got off my bus and the right positive individuals got on. We define the 3 A's of accountability as action, application, and attitude. Now, for me, the most important key to those 3 A's is definitely taking action. So today, don't think, don't hope, or pray. Take action. Do something and start right now. In life, it's not a question of if you will get hit or knocked down, but it's actually when. And when you get knocked down and you face your next challenge or obstacle head on, what are you going to do? Are you going to be negative? Are you going to give and or accept an excuse? Or will you get back up and keep on going? As a theme of our podcast today is gratitude, I want to end on a positive note with a couple key calls to action for our listeners. For my first challenge, I challenge every single one of you to pick up your cell phone and call 3 people today. Call 3 people that you know are truly in your corner. Say hello, check in, and thank them just because. But please make sure that you are truly in their corner as well, and make sure that they know it. For my second challenge, I challenge everyone today to do 2 things for someone else and do them just because with 0 expectations in return. It could be something as simple as holding the door open for someone, perhaps smiling and saying hello to a stranger, maybe buying a police officer or a fireman a cup of coffee. No matter what your 2 things are, do them with a smile, do them with 0 expectations in return, and go crush your day as you go for your greatness. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.